I do understand the concerns of every relative where there has been a death in conflict. It is right that we give the fullest explanation possible, and my sympathies go out to people who have questions that they wish answered. And I will do everything in my power to answer, as I will continue to do, the questions that people have. I think, if you look at the question of expenditure in Iraq, you have got to start from this one fundamental truth: that every request that the military commanders made to us for equipment was answered. No request was ever turned down. I would add to that, as long as I have been Prime Minister, I have always asked the military at the point at which they are undertaking any new operation, can they assure me that they have the equipment that they need for the task that they are undertaking? And at every point the answer to the question is, for the operation that we are undertaking, we have the equipment and we have the resources that are necessary. I don't believe that any Prime Minister would send our troops into conflict without the assurance from the military that they had the equipment necessary for the operation. And I do not believe that there was any request that was made for equipment during the course of these events in Iraq that was turned down. Now, as for the issue relating to Snatch, the point at which the Ministry of Defense decided that, as a result of the change in tactics by the insurgents against them, that they wanted additional and other vehicles to deal with the problems they faced in the Basra area, we immediately agreed with the Ministry of Defense that they should have the additional money. It was £90 million for new Mastiffs and new Bulldogs. So the first time the request was made, we met it immediately with £90 million, and that was a decision that military commanders could make only themselves as to when and where they needed these new vehicles. But once these new vehicles were asked for, they were offered and the money paid, and I think within 6 months, because that was the quickest procurement program for these vehicles. These vehicles, or at least some of them, were available in Iraq. As far as vehicle spending after 1997, let me just say that the Strategic Defense Review set the scene by which spending reviews were then made. Every spending review, 2002, 2004, 2007, involved a rise in real-term spending. It is not for me to make the decisions that the military themselves, along with the Defense Secretary, can make about specific items of equipment, but the real terms rise in spending was there for the military to make the decision as they thought best. At that time, as you probably know, FRES was the program for vehicles that was interesting the military most, but again, I have to say that that program, even if it had been carried out in full, which it hasn't been because of military decisions, that would have not given us the right vehicles, as I understand it, for Iraq. So when we needed the vehicles, when the Ministry of Defense asked for them, when a request was made, the expenditure was allocated and the vehicles were provided, and that's the Mastiff and Bulldog. And of course, other vehicles have been provided with, I think, £1 billion now spent on vehicles, about 1,000 vehicles for Iraq and Afghanistan.